Cleveland thought Shedeur Sanders was already theirs, but overnight, the New Orleans Saints made a shocking move that changed everything. And when the truth came out, the Browns were left stunned.
Let me officially welcome you to the Cleveland Browns. Congrats on being here. How you doing?
I'm excited to be here. I'm ready to do big things, accomplish a lot of great things, and be a great teammate.
Rookie minicamp. That's what we're talking right now. You're about to get first time be able to put the uniform on, get out on the grass. What are you hoping to do as you kind of just assimilate in here into the National Football League?
I'll say, of course, establish myself first in the locker room, first around the building, have everybody understand me, and just create, great dialogue between everybody, just be a good teammate, honestly.
Even the Shedeur things, like, I think he will play.
Yeah.
I was scared that they would bring some veteran in there, right? Geno Smith, Tua. You know what I'm saying? One of them guys, Malik Willis. They didn't. So everybody else they're bringing in is like a real, true old journeyman. Where now it's an even playing field. Now knowing that I can just go out there and ball, I don't have to worry about nobody over my shoulder, no book with the coach, I can just go play. The offense was bad last year. So now we want the rookie to go out there and play well and do good, but the offensive line is not good. So I like this move. I think the defense is really, really good. They need some help on offense, and especially the offensive line. They need some wide receivers too, though. Like, Jerry Jeudy, I think he's good. He could be better. They need a true number one. But the first thing you got to do is it starts with the offensive line.
Absolutely.
Forget everything you thought you knew about where Shedeur Sanders was landing, because overnight, the entire board flipped. The New Orleans Saints just made a move so aggressive, so calculated, so financially massive that the Cleveland Browns never saw it coming. We're talking about a secret $320 million offer that was dropped in the dead of night, and by the time the Browns front office woke up and checked their phones, the deal was already done. This is not a rumor. This is not a maybe. The Saints just stole the most talked about quarterback prospect in this entire draft cycle, and the league is in absolute shock right now. Stay locked in, because this story is still unfolding by the minute.
Finding a personal balance between building off of the things that you're succeeding in and some of those deep passes that make you feel a little confident, and then also looking at the film and doing what you said, trying to play.
I just got to get more completions. I got to get more completions, and even whenever we're down or anything, I can't press. I just got to remain having those mental notes to myself. Just work within the game and just keep driving the ball, get first downs.
I know what do you think the difference is? You were the best at completing passes in Colorado, 70% plus. Is it just the difference in competition here and the defense is more sophisticated? Or where do you account for your completion percentage?
I think I got to complete the ball more, honestly. There's no excuse when it comes to that.
Let's go all the way back to the beginning, because if you don't understand the full timeline of how Shedeur Sanders got to this point, the magnitude of what just happened is going to fly right over your head. And trust me, you do not want to miss the magnitude of this. Coming out of Colorado, Shedeur Sanders was supposed to be a top 5 pick. That was the consensus. That was the evaluation from scouts who had spent decades watching quarterbacks come through the college system. The arm talent was there. The football IQ was there. The production against elite competition was undeniable. And yet somehow, the narrative around his draft stock started shifting in the weeks leading up to the draft in ways that made absolutely no sense when you actually looked at the tape. Suddenly, there were concerns. Suddenly, anonymous sources inside NFL organizations were whispering about coachability. Suddenly, the same quarterback who had been dissected and praised all season long by the most respected analysts in the business was being described in back-channel conversations as a project, as a risk, as someone whose ceiling was uncertain. And every single one of those whispers was disconnected from the football. Every single one of them was about everything except what Shedeur actually did on the field, which told you everything you needed to know about where those whispers were coming from and what they were designed to do. But here is what the people running that narrative did not count on. They did not count on the Cleveland Browns going all in, and they absolutely did not count on New Orleans being willing to blow the entire thing up overnight. The Cleveland Browns entering this story felt inevitable in a lot of ways. They had a quarterback situation that had been a disaster for years. They had drafted poorly, they had spent big in free agency with diminishing returns, and they had a fan base that was running out of patience in a very loud and very public way. The pressure on the Browns front office to get this right was not just internal, it was coming from every direction. Media, fans, former players, analysts, everybody had an opinion about what Cleveland needed to do at quarterback, and the majority of those opinions pointed directly at Shedeur Sanders. So when reports started surfacing that the Browns were heavily engaged in conversations around Shedeur, that they were doing the deep dive, bringing in the film, having the meetings, it felt like the natural conclusion to a story that had been building all offseason. Cleveland was going to be the place, Shedeur was going to be the guy, and the rebuild was finally going to have a face attached to it. The Browns front office was not exactly quiet about their interest either. There were enough leaks, enough sourced reports, enough on-the-record adjacent statements floating around that the football world had basically penciled this in. Shedeur to Cleveland. Done deal, move on. Except nobody told New Orleans. Hold on, because what the Saints did next is going to make your jaw drop.
Like that's just been what the coach has been preaching to us, like, treat practice like it's a game, like be mentally focused, and things personally working on is just staying focused throughout the closing and everything. Like just have just mental toughness throughout everything. So to me, it's gonna be the same thing, same approach. And I know to a lot of teammates in the team that I worked with, like first group, second group, third group. Offensively, I know we're gonna be ready. Now defensively, hey, I don't think they're going to be ready for us, but we definitely going to give a show.
The New Orleans Saints had been operating in the background of this entire draft cycle in a way that most people completely underestimated. They were quiet, deliberately quiet. While Cleveland was letting their interest leak through the usual channels, while the media was building the Brown-Shedeur narrative into a near certainty, New Orleans was in rooms that nobody knew they were in, having conversations that nobody knew they were having, and building toward a move that was so aggressive it bordered on unprecedented. The $320 million offer did not come from nowhere. That number did not get attached to Shedeur Sanders because someone in the Saints organization got emotional and started writing zeros. That number came from a calculated, thorough evaluation of exactly what Shedeur Sanders is worth to a franchise. Not just as a quarterback, not just as a player, but as a franchise-defining asset, as a cultural moment, as the kind of signing that changes the entire energy around a team and a city overnight. And New Orleans, more than almost any other city in the NFL, understands what that kind of energy means. The Saints fan base is not casual. It is not transactional. It is one of the most passionate, most loyal, most emotionally invested fan bases in all of professional sports. When the Saints are good, that city is electric. When the Saints struggle, that city feels it in a deep and personal way. And the Saints organization knows, they have always known, that the right quarterback does not just change the win-loss record. The right quarterback changes everything. Shedeur Sanders is that quarterback, and New Orleans decided they were not going to wait around and watch Cleveland stumble into the most important player available in this draft. But here is where it flips, and this is the part that makes Shedeur's situation genuinely extraordinary. Because the $320 million offer is not just a number, it is a statement. It is the Saints organization standing up in front of the entire NFL and saying, we see what this young man is, we believe in what he is going to become, and we are willing to put our money where our evaluation is, in a way that removes all doubt about our commitment to him. Think about what that means for Shedeur specifically. Think about what the last several months have looked like for him. The whisper campaign, the anonymous concerns, the draft stock manipulation, the drama surrounding his father, the constant noise from people who seemed determined to make his path to the NFL as complicated and as uncertain as possible. All of that, every single bit of it, and Shedeur Sanders is walking into his first NFL contract with a $320 million offer on the table from a franchise that went out of their way to make sure he knew exactly how much they valued him. That is not a coincidence. That is not luck. That is the result of a young man who kept his composure when everyone around him was trying to create chaos, who let his tape speak when everyone around him was trying to control the narrative, who trusted the process, his process, not the one being designed for him by people with agendas, and came out on the other side of one of the most politically charged draft cycles in recent memory with the biggest offer attached to his name. You cannot write this story. You genuinely cannot write it. Now let's talk about Cleveland for a second, because the Browns' reaction to all of this is a story in itself.
I'll say, of course, establish myself first in the locker room, first around the building, have everybody understand me, and just create, great dialogue between everybody, just be a good teammate, honestly.
When you say you want everybody to understand you, what is it that you want our listeners, because they're not going to get to be around you in the locker room, what is it that you want people to understand about you?
Well, I'm saying understand me. What I'm speaking on is understand, I work hard, and I love the game of football. That's all you really need to know. And, I ain't disrespectful. I don't have off-the-field problems, so.
When the news broke that New Orleans had made their move, the response from the Browns camp was described by people close to the situation as somewhere between stunned and furious, because this was not supposed to happen. The Browns had operated with the assumption that their position was secure, that the conversations they had been having with the Sanders camp were exclusive enough, were advanced enough, that no other franchise was going to come in at the last minute and completely upend the whole thing. They were wrong, and the way they were wrong matters. Because what New Orleans did was not just financially aggressive, it was strategically precise. The Saints identified the exact moment when the Browns were most comfortable, most confident, most settled in their position, and that is exactly when they moved. Not with a counteroffer, not with a slightly better package, with a number so large, so emphatic, so impossible to ignore that it forced Shedeur and his camp to have a completely different conversation than the one they had been planning to have. The Browns got outmaneuvered. And in a league where front office decisions define franchises for a decade at a time, getting outmaneuvered on the most coveted quarterback prospect in the draft is not something you recover from quickly or quietly. What this means for Shedeur going forward in New Orleans is a conversation that deserves its own full breakdown, and we will get there. But the short version is this. The Saints are not building around Shedeur Sanders in theory, they are building around him in practice. The $320 million is the foundation. The roster decisions, the coaching staff alignment, the scheme construction, all of that is going to follow. Because when you commit that kind of money to a quarterback, every other decision in the organization runs through that commitment. Shedeur is going to have weapons. He is going to have protection. He is going to have a coaching staff that was evaluated, at least in part, on the basis of whether they were the right people to develop and support the quarterback you just paid $320 million. That is how franchise quarterbacks work when the organization is actually serious about winning. And New Orleans just demonstrated, in the most expensive way possible, that they are serious. The people who spent months trying to convince the league that Shedeur Sanders was a risk, that he was a question mark, that his draft stock should reflect something other than his actual football ability, those people are looking at a $320 million offer right now and recalibrating, because the market just told them exactly what their narrative was worth. Nothing. The market said their narrative was worth nothing. Shedeur Sanders is going to New Orleans. He is going with the largest offer attached to his name. He is going to a city that will embrace him, a fan base that will go absolutely insane for him, and an organization that put their money on the table before anyone else even knew the auction had started. The draft process tried to slow him down, the whisper campaign tried to drop his stock, the politics tried to complicate what should have been a straightforward evaluation of an elite quarterback prospect. And at the end of all of it, at the end of every manufactured obstacle, in every anonymous source, and every coordinated narrative, Shedeur Sanders lands exactly where he deserves to land, on top. So drop this in the comments right now. Do you think the Saints just made the smartest move in the NFL this offseason? Or did they overpay for the hype? Because I already know what side of that debate I am on, and I think you do too. If you want the real story before anyone else gets it, you already know what to do. Hit subscribe and stay locked in. The Shedeur Sanders era is just getting started, and we are going to be here for every single second of it.